Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Jay Helms, founder of the podcast and movement known as the W2 Capitalist. Today, I am joined by Mr. Feras Moussa. Feras is an entrepreneur at heart with a tech background. That's something he and I have in common. I don't know that we didn't share that during the pre-notes, but I actually have a computer science degree as well. I didn't do with it what you've done with yours, but by that I mean Feras graduated from the University of Texas with a computer science degree and worked for Microsoft straight from college. Tell you a little bit how smart this guy is. Feras, you guys pay attention to this. Feras later quit Microsoft to bring tech to the industries that lack it, where he later found his passion in real estate. Feras quickly built a portfolio of rentals, completing 9 closing in his first 12 months. That's pretty incredible, Feras. After seeing the results of rentals, Feras later decided to scale up into apartment complexes, where he met Ben and started Disrupt Equity, a company focused on multifamily acquisition and investments for investors, and in doing so, helped leverage his strengths in tech to better identify quality investments for his investors. Feras has helped raise millions of dollars for multifamily syndications. Feras, welcome to the show, man. Glad you are here.
Thanks for having me, Jay. I'm glad to be part of the movement and glad to tell everyone how important having a computer science degree is to get into the state, right? So clearly it's the right progression. So.
Well, it's funny. There's a guy in my mastermind. He's an engineer. I don't label myself as an engineer now. Now, when I graduated college, I probably did. But I've been in the sales and in the sales force for a while, and but he posted this message the other night about how many real estate investors are engineers, and it was like, I mean, it blew up. It was a trending topic on Bigger Pockets, which is where you and I met, and or were introduced. I think somebody introduced me through that, and I was like, this guy left Microsoft. I got to talk to him. Right, I got to talk to him. And you were mentioning before the show that was over 10 years ago.
That was about 10 years ago. Yeah, I mean, almost. Actually, yeah.
So
I guess 9 years ago. I said 10. I was wrong. I think it was 9 years ago.
We won't hold you. We won't hold your feet to the fire.
No,
on that small
but
detail.
You're right. Lots of engineers, because I mean, fundamentally, real estate is a numbers game. It's a people's game, and it's a numbers game. And I think engineers tend to understand the numbers a little bit more comfortably than other people do. Yeah. And so I think that's probably why people that come from engineering backgrounds tend to like it. And so
yes, yeah. So I am fresh off my W-2 career, right? So I am a product of COVID-19 layoffs. Have vowed to never go back due to my focus on real estate investing. So it's fresh on my mind of leaving the W-2 world and focus real estate investing on full time. But 10 years ago, you left on your own, right? I'm still a little sour. Like, I hate to lose more than I like to win, kind of thing. And I'm still a little sour that somebody else got to keep their job and I didn't. I'm going to get over it eventually when I follow your lead and make millions of dollars in real estate, which I would not at the W-2. Same for you, right? Is you saw that kind of writing on the wall and started going after it. But what led up to that decision, and how hard was it, if you can remember back that 19 years ago, to say, all right, I'm done with the W-2 world. I'm going to go into real estate full time?
No, I mean, so that's a great question. So leaving your job, right, your W-2 job is never a comfortable thing, right? And so for me, I left to actually, my story is really crazy. So I mean, high school, I had my own little web company, and whenever Microsoft was almost an accident, and I told myself 3 years and I'm out. So I waited 3.5 years and I did leave, and it wasn't to get into real estate, it's actually start a software company. So that was even like more of a gusto kind of thing, because I didn't really have much clarity, right? With real estate, at least there's a little bit of clarity. If I buy these things, I know they'll cash flow this much. Whereas in my case, it was me and a friend, and just kind of did it on a dream originally, right? And so learned a lot about business for those next several years, and then kind of, had extra cash flows looking to invest. And really, I had learned a lot about the stock market, for the past 15 years. I'd started that in high school. I knew I wanted something, diversify a little better. And so at the time I read The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, which is a great book. I highly recommend it because it talks about like the fundamentals of real estate. Yeah. And then from that, really learned a lot, listened to a lot of podcasts, and hopped in and figured it out. And so, it's funny you mentioned about leaving your job, because really the same exact thing kind of came up just the other day, talking to someone on our team who we made an offer to and got him to leave his cushy job, right? And, some of that is understanding, the path, right? And so that's for those of your listeners out there that might have gotten, a COVID layoff, or, such as yourself or anyone else, man. Sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. And I'll give you even another example. we were doing a huge deal during, right before COVID blew up, and it just, the whole COVID thing happened, and we had to change everything. And at the time, it's like, oh man, this is gonna suck the next couple of months. There's a lot of fear, but really, it's been kind of a blessing because I've been able to double down and build up other systems, other companies, other entities that we've been wanting to do. And so you got to kind of look at the positive. It's like, yeah, maybe we lost a little bit on the short term, but on the long term, I mean, it's setting up for a totally different trajectory. So
Yeah, I love that you see that. I think a lot of companies, including the one, this is gonna be a nasty dig, but I think the companies that laid off people, they are very short-sighted. They're not in it for the long game. I love that you're doubling down. You see the opportunity is to build that foundation and come out of, what a lot of people are predicting is a recession or even depression, and skyrocket to the next level. So
and it's not that we think it's going to be roses for the next 6 months or a year,
right.
It's unknown. The problem is that's the city, we don't know. But for us, it's okay. There's a problem. Here are the solutions towards it. What else can we do to get more resilient? Yeah. So for us, we're diversifying. We're building out other sister businesses, and it's giving us that opportunity to just kind of put the brakes on some things and focus on other things. And so for your listeners, same thing, man. You might be pent up at the house because you can't leave under quarantine. Go out, read a book, listen to podcasts such as this, learn all you can, bask in that. And then once you get out of it, figure out how to act on it, right? And make steps towards that. And so I think there's a million ways to get involved in real estate. I tell people I love real estate because it's a numbers game and it's a people's game. Yeah. And so, find people, get to know people, and really figure out people that are doing what you want to do, and how do you start to maybe partner, do things together. So.
Yeah. And you say it's a numbers game, and we were chatting before about how there's an overwhelming amount of investors who are engineers, and why we get that kind of, I don't know, math comes real easy. But for some of those engineers, the people aspect of the business doesn't come as easy, right? So then you have to rely on a partner who does, right? And you seem to be one of those guys that has the ability to not only talk to people, but also talk to engineers. Go back to the Office Space reference where you've got, I forget the guy's name, but he's the guy that, you can't have customers talking to engineers. You can't have engineers talking to customers. You got to have Feras, right? So,
I mean, it's important to understand your strengths and weaknesses, right?
Yes, yes.
I was probably lucky. So at Microsoft, I was a program manager, but I was probably the most technical, one of the more technical Windows. And, because of that, I was able to talk to engineers, but also there's still that people component. And so I learned both sides of it, but I also have a partner who's also can help with the people side, and he carries his weight as well. And so for those that are out there listening, I mean, real estate is a business that is purely, your success is almost rooted in the people I mean, it really is. Hard as you might work, knowing the right people will make leaps and bounds. And so figure out what you're lacking and what others can bring to the table, and you create win-win situations. Yeah. So if you're an engineer and you're listening, and you're really good at underwriting and analysis, and you have friends who can all invest, that's a lot of value you're bringing. Go find someone that can help do more of the face, or more of the talking, or more of the dealing with staff, right? I mean, working with staff is its own thing. And so really, understand your weakness and get out there and find someone to help. And there's a million ways to do that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And partnerships are key. I mean, I've been slowly building my partnership base in the real estate community over the last couple of years. And really in the last month, since I was laid off, I've been able to really focus on that. I feel like I've made more progress in the last 4 weeks than I have in the last 4 years. Just because of, instead of 1 or 2 hours a day, it's now 5 or 6 hours a day of that, right? Amongst all the other stuff we have going on. And I gave you a
get out there, tell people how to say hi, right? You risk nothing. You're not going to, people in real estate love to talk about real estate. I mean, that's really the name of the beast. And so very few people are going to be annoyed, that you want to talk to them. But it's also, understand who's busy and figure out ways to add value. I think that's also an important thing, because, we get approached by a lot of different people, and that reminds me, I just remember another person I need to get back to. So just click. But, kind of come with a little bit of a plan, right? And people, if you have a little bit of direction where people don't feel like, oh, this guy's just talking to talk, but have some direction, a plan, good questions, people will appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And partnerships. So I've been diving into this now that I'm focused on multifamily, or real estate investing full time. I want to focus on multifamily, right? Had some success with that on the general partner and limited partner side for the last few years. And I want to be known as the guy of, if there's an apartment complex in North Florida, Jay's your guy to go talk to about it, right? And that extends from Mobile, Alabama to Jacksonville, Florida, just because I've been to Mobile and know Mobile quite well. Spent a lot of the W-2 time in the last 20 years over there. But one piece of the puzzle that I don't have is the capital, right? So I've been working on my investor pool, building relationships with people I don't typically know, right? And just reaching out and saying, hey, here's my goal, whatnot, and of buying apartment complexes along the Gulf Coast. But you've raised millions of dollars, right, for this same aspect, right? So let's go here next. Number one, what does your portfolio hold today with Disrupt Equity? And number two, give us some points on, if you're a passive investor, what you should be looking for or listening to from a syndicator. Somebody calls who wants to build a relationship with you, and you may or may not know him, but you want to get to know him, but he's going to bring you a deal eventually. What is some of the things that those folks as passive investors should be looking for?
Yeah. So, I mean, to your first question, I just blanked out. Your first question was
units in your portfolio.
No, yeah, sorry. The first question. Yeah. So right now today, Disrupt Equity, we've had a couple of deals go full cycle. Today we have about 1,500 units under management. Still,
Nice.
that we own. They're not all here in Houston, so we're based in Houston. We actually, we manage one deal in Houston, but all of our stuff is throughout Texas and Atlanta. And so we do the remote thing, we do local, we just about building a system. And so, for the passive investors that are out there listening, it's about understand your sponsor that you're talking to. What do they bring to the table, right? I like to say that syndication is really about project management on steroids, right? How do you put these puzzle pieces? Like you said, you have a piece of the puzzle. If you have a deal in Jacksonville or a deal in, somewhere in Florida, I mean, Jay, I want to be the first guy you call, all right?
Yeah.
And we can help solve the rest of the pieces, right? You put them all together,
Yeah.
and you all accomplish something bigger, greater together. And so
you are sitting at the beach right now, right? So
I am sitting at the beach, right? It's right here. It's my big virtual beach. Not as nice as it looks like on video.
Yeah.
I figured it's a lot more fun than my great back.
Yeah.
One day
or my cluttered office that you see in my background too. So.
Here's a little bit more genuine. So,
yeah.
But for the passive investors, talk to the sponsor, right? Is the sponsor transparent? I've had investors approach me saying, "Hey, this sponsor gave me a T12 or won't answer these questions," and I'm like, "Well," and then they're like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Why are you even investing with them, right?" As a passive investor, you're partnering with this person, and it's not a short-term partnership. I mean, you're in it for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years, right? And so understand them, their level of transparency, understand what their goal is with the plan, right? And does that align with what your goals are? Because you might be looking to max your dollar, but you're willing to take no decisions for a year, but you want to try to, or you might be looking to retire and you just need cash flow, right? So making sure the business models align. And the most important thing, ask for referrals and just, ask if done. And it's not to say that someone new is not capable, but you just have to, as a passive investor, understand the risk you're getting into, and then are you being compensated accordingly?
Yeah.
And so, that goes back to what the fee structure is, all of that. And so, our first deal, we gave up more than the deals we do now, right? We're figuring it out as well earlier on. And so, and then maybe also just as important, who else are they partnering? Because again, point, right? Maybe someone is bringing a piece of it, but someone else can bring the experience and that network. And so it's a team sport. And for passive investors, just understand who you're partnering with, because you really do need to look at it as you're partnering with this person, right? Yeah. What is their communication style? Do they do monthly updates? Do they do quarterly? Do they do annually? Right? How else do they operate? Everything else. What do their updates look like? Do they give full financials? I mean, we do monthly, we do full financials, we do monthly distributions, right? What do other people do? And it's not the same monthly as the quarterly is, people are different. Just making sure, again, as an investor, it meets your style, your persona.
Well, just curious, because I'm a limited partner in 2 different apartment complexes. One's in Waxahachie, which I'm sure you know where that is, and the other one's in Greenville. The operators there, one of the operators does monthly distributions. The other one does quarterly. You just mentioned you guys do monthly. What's the biggest drawback from doing one over the other as an operator and or as from a passive investor?
So people think that doing monthly is more work than doing quarterly, but that's only true until you grow. Once you grow, it actually becomes a burden for me to try to remember, hey, is it that third month for this deal? Because all of our deals are monthly. Well,
Yeah.
actually, it's a lot easier saying, look, we do distributions on every deal, and we just put a system in place for it. And you just know that, okay, we get the financials on the 15th, right, from the property manager company. Then on the 25th, we write up their things. We figure out, okay, we're going to distribute this much cash. And, we send out the investor updates at the end of the month, and we also queue up the wires out to investors. It's actually a lot easier. And so the pros and cons for a passive investor, it's getting your money now versus, cumulative in 3. Right. Some people like to have that monthly. Some people will spend it if they don't get it in bigger batches. So yeah, that's where maybe as an investor, you want to be in a deal where they give you for a year because you might have a tendency to spend it. So maybe it's actually better for you to not do as often. For us, I hope our investors can kind of, manage that themselves. And so we like to get the money out sooner, but it's also the nice thing about an operator about doing quarterly and, and this is where doing monthly, you have to be cognizant of is you have less ability for reserves, right? Because kind of you think about it, we accumulate, and then you get a big push out. Versus if you're doing monthly, you have your reserves that you have on every deal, but you just have less buffer of reserves. And so being aware of that and, how do you handle that? So.
And from a passive investor standpoint, it really just comes down what they prefer. Right now, do you have some investors? Because I'm just now hit me. I've never asked this, but hey, I don't want monthly distributions. I want quarterly. Do you have these one-offs, or everybody kind of
moving to monthly? I'm just like, to get your money even better. I mean, we get the value prop that we're monthly, and we're fine enough to do monthly, and so generally most investors are excited about it.
Yeah. That's interesting. I thought I'm like you, or I'm like your general statement. Most people think it's more work. I was thinking it would be more work, but the way you just put that makes sense. Definitely makes sense.
To me, it's easier to build a consistent system that's doing the same thing every month versus trying to, like, it just gets to a point where I'm like, man, we have so many different deals, and I'm like, well, shoot, that deal we bought it last April, and then I start counting May, June, it becomes a burden, right? Versus just getting them all consistent, and then you just figure out how much do you have to distribute.
System for every month. I like it. That's very good. From how you forgot my question earlier. I just totally lost my train of thought.
That is we're computer science degrees. We're not memorization historian degrees.
Oh
right?
Man, did you ever cheat in class? I just got to ask you that.
I never cheat in class. Everyone cheated in some capacity. It's a team sport. It's like real estate, right? To me, it's like if a person took the exam before me and you ask, hey, is it focusing on X or Y? Is that cheating?
Is that cheating? Is that still going by the rules? Yeah.
I figure out ways to operate efficiently.
There you go.
Exams
if that has ever been a political answer to that question, that was it, right? So I remember now. That was a good stall tactic. I now remember what I was going to ask you. What does a typical deal look like for you? And I know there's a wide range, and don't want to get too deep in the numbers here because we are just talking. It's just audio or video if we happen to use this on the YouTube channel. But what does a typical deal look like for you to present to your passive investors?
No, so I mean, originally whenever we started, we used to do just a straight split, 80-20, right? So on all cash flow and profits, meaning not their initial investment, right? You always give that back first, but basically on everything else that we've made, we would take 20, investors would get 80%, right? We since have moved to a model where we do a preferred return in every one of our deals. And for those investors that are listening, it really sounds scarier than it is. All a preferred return means.
What is preferred? Wait a minute, you're using these big words. This is not
investors are getting preference on their return. Yeah. And so for anyone, to give you a simple example, if a deal is an 8% preferred return, right? An investor puts in $100,000. That means that the investor is getting 8% annualized on their investment each year before the sponsors can get a cut.
Yep.
Right. So it's kind of protecting the investors, right? It's almost like there's like that minimum bar. And so me as a sponsor, I'm very motivated to get above that 8% pref because why? If I stay below the 8%, I'm not getting anything on the profits, right? And so we're doing all this work, we're not getting, any of that. So we really want to get above it because then that's whenever we get the splits. And so most of our deals today, we're doing a 75-25 with an 8 pref or 70-30 with an 8 pref. And then that 70-30 split is, 30 to us, 70 to investors, and that's after the 8. And so
Yeah.
All the money that's left over, they're still getting 70%. So I'm not even adding the 8 back in. Some people do what's called a catch up and a clawback. For those of your passive investors, read your PPM, read the company agreement, understand the deal, right? That's basically an opportunity for the sponsor to get caught up to where they match your 8. We don't do that in our deals currently. So.
Yeah, and PPM is private placement memorandum, which is a document required by the SEC to file on this type of securities. They look at it as an investment security. You mentioned earlier too, went full cycle on a couple of your deals. And, I think it's very important, the relationship piece is that a passive investor has to have a good relationship with the sponsor or the syndicator of the deal, because you're right. You're married to that entity for at least 4 or 5 years. But if you're doing your job right, and what you as a syndicator, you want to raise money, what you want to do is have a good relationship so you can renew your vows in 5 years, right? So you can say, hey, we've exited this property. Here's the
Very
next
true.
one.
The easiest investor is the investor you already have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus, having to get new investors every deal. Right.
Yep.
And, the investors that you have, our number one source of investors are referrals from our existing investors. Right.
Nice.
And so do your part, don't, if you want to go do your own deal, don't go aggressive on the deal, right, and not be able to perform. I'm a big fan of, basically under promise, over deliver, right?
Yeah.
And it's not to say every one of our deals are perfect, right? Every deal has its own challenges, but usually that first year is the most painful deal because you just kind of don't know what you're getting into until you get into it.
Yeah.
Right. But, a good sponsor operator will work through it and get the thing back on track. Right. And so understand that. And, it's important to keep your current investors happy.
Yeah. And that usually comes with clarity, money, right? But I mean, both of those are two very important things. You definitely want to be able to meet their expectations of what y'all agreed to on the deal, but also clarity, right? Is building relationships, making sure that you have, you're not sidestepping any kind of conversation or anything like that. So I think those two to me are some of the biggest things.
No, making sure it's available, right? Our investors know that they can ping me, and I'm the one that answers. I don't have the rest of the team that answered. Most of them, it's either me or my partner, right? And we that's where our time is best spent, right? Working, with our investors, seeing what they're up to, and vice versa.
Had somebody tell
we perform, right? Like we sell a deal, guess what? We have a lot. Our problem is we sold 2 deals in November and we haven't found a deal since then. And those investors have a lot of cash sitting, waiting for us to find a good deal. So
how patient are they?
Well, they're patient. I mean, we almost had a deal, but yeah, it just, they're pinging me, especially now with all the kind of what's happened in the market. They're like, hey man, do you have any deals? Really want to get something deployed now, right? Because pricing is going to adjust down. And so trying to find the right deal.
Well, on that note, where do you think we're going? This morning I did a YouTube live. I was talking about the differences between, or similarities between, where we were at in 2008 versus now. And if you look at some of the housing market prices, which I'm not very clear on, I need to go back and research this on how single family housing market prices affect multifamily, but it's all tied. When I look at single family, I think of, well, that's how the economy in general is moving. So it goes, I can draw a gray line between that and the value of multifamily. Maybe you can add some clarity to that. But what I was looking at is where the unemployment spikes hit versus where pricing started to come down, right?
So a couple of things.
Yeah.
Right. I've given a lot of thought to this. So you have to look at it in terms of multifamily is a cash flow business. Single family is an emotional business. It really is, right? Multifamily, you're looking for cash flow, and your pricing and valuation is based on cash flow. That's number one. Number two, the thing that affects cap rates and compression or not, one of the biggest drivers is debt, right? How easy is debt? So you have the 10-year sitting at like half a point, right? Debt is so unbelievably cheap right now. So that's going to continue to let people essentially overpay or pay up for an apartment, multifamily, because they can get the debt so cheap, right? And so their spread, they still want to make their whatever they want to make on the spread, but it's just become lower because it's a cheaper amount. And then the third thing too to keep in mind is with COVID, I think it's kind of helped remind people why multifamily is so attractive, right? Because at the end of the day, it's really high up on Maslow's, pyramid of needs, right? The government has deemed it just as important as first people need to eat, drink, sleep. So you're
Yeah.
up there. So the government, the stimulus money is really a way to get people, obviously, a place to sleep, right?
Right.
And so it's that important. And so versus the Chili's pad site that was selling at a 4 cap, it does not have to be in business, right? Cheesecake Factory did not pay their note or their rent last month, right? Across all their properties. And so it's a little bit of a reminder to people like, hey, in the end of the day, it's up there. It's, it's an essential part of business. And so I think between that and all the money that's getting dumped into the market right now, there's going to be a large transfer of wealth, because I do believe people that know how to invest their money, save their money, will continue to know how to do so. People that don't will continue not to know how to do, right? Some people will change between the two, but what does that mean? That means all of this money is going to, over time, it's going to percolate back up, and it's going to look for a place to get invested. And so, there's already so much money sitting on the sidelines, and there's going to be that much more over the next coming years. So I think actually in the long run, I think cap rates, I don't know or care what the next year is going to happen, next 2 years. But I think in the long run, there's just going to be so much money that's out there. And, with the 10-year as low as it is, debt is still very cheap. It's going to look to get placed in something. So.
Speaking of that, COVID-19, before I was laid off, the entire company went to work remotely. You said was today your first day back in the office?
No, my partner came in sporadically, but then today we have pretty much
whole team was in there. Okay, I got you. But a lot of companies are now seeing, okay, we can be productive with remotely working employees. So speaking of the commercial space, right? So with restaurants and stuff, I think that'll come back. I don't know that businesses, the commercial space is going to come back. Quite frankly, my wife and I, we looked at another apartment, commercial space right down the road from us. And my one hang up is a lot of folks are going to start working from home now that they know they can do it. And now that the companies are allowing them to do it and saying, hey, you can just go from home. So I want to get your thoughts on what you think that's going to do to the commercial space. Yeah. But on the flip side of that, as people are now having an okay to work from home, they're going to figure out at some point in time, they're going to need more space, right? Does that mean, how does that change the multifamily playing field, or does it?
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions in there. So being remote's important.
I have to get them out, or otherwise I'm going to forget them. Do you see me typing just so fearlessly over here? I was like, I want to hear what he's saying, but I want to get this anyway.
I'm glad we were born a remote company, right? Again, I came from the tech world. I set us up that way. We know how to operate lean and mean. That's worked out well.
Yeah.
Now, to your point, I think, yes, some companies might want to, they'll let employees work from home. But I think also some companies are going to look for more space, because they're going to need more space per employee, right? They're trying to keep more distance than they were beforehand.
Oh,
right?
I haven't thought about that.
That's one school of thought. And again, I don't have a crystal ball. That's just kind of what people been talking. I'm like, that makes a good point. Yeah. I think in general, we're going to see some pullback in commercial, office buildings. But here in Houston, I'm actually very interested in it, because Houston also had the 1-2 punch between COVID and oil, right? I actually think if I can buy an office building at a true cap, where I'm not a big REIT and I need to show that my average lease for the past 2 leases was, $2 a square foot. I just need to maximize cash flow, and I can drop my prices and really fill it up. That's attractive. Yeah. And so, I think make lemonade from lemons, right, is kind of the thought process there. So it'll be interesting to see. I just don't know, but realistically, I'm hoping to get into an office building in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
What you said, true cap. What do you mean by true cap?
You see a tendency for people and brokers to kind of price a building saying, look, if you fill this thing up, it'd be this much. Yeah. Here's what I'm going to value it. Versus if a building, because let's just go in the extremes. A building that is 0% occupancy is arguably worth $0, right?
Right.
Because, there's zero cash flow. If you think about the cap rate equation. Now it'll never sell for $0, right? So there's that, how much are they going to give it credit if they sell it, so, right. But sometimes you'll see people say, look, it's 60% occupied. The leases are all up this much. Therefore, if you did the work to fill it up, you can make this much. And they're like, let me meet you halfway and say it's 80% of potential, right? So.
And what do you think about the remote workforce changing the space of multifamily? Do you think with COVID-19 and people being confined into their apartments, has now pushed, I see these reports coming out, and I guess I should look at who's writing the reports and what kind of agenda they're pushing. But are they writing these reports to say, or some of these reports are saying that multifamily, I'm being dramatic here, multifamily's dead. It's not what they're saying, but they're saying a lot of folks are now focusing on getting out to suburbia now that they want to have the space and whatnot, and they're going to be able to work remotely from home. Does it look like that? Do you think there's going to be a big exit from that? Or do you think there's going to be a lot more new builds that are going to have places for people to work inside their apartments?
So the question is, if people need space, does it mean they're going to houses? I mean, we've actually seen an uptick in leases, and I don't quite understand it. And my conclusions from different, things I've spoken on and listened to people is it's either people that have been stuck at home together fighting and they want their own place, right? Like couples, you heard about the divorce rate.
Yeah.
That's one example. Or it's the son that was living with the parents, but now that the son, he doesn't want to get his parents sick, or he's working from home and needs space, he goes off and gets a lease. So it might be a forcing function for people to go off and go get they're going from being a bigger household to being a smaller household, but doesn't necessarily mean to me they're going from multifamily to just houses, right?
Gotcha.
So some people will, but I think it trickles across the board, right? So the couple that are 2 and 1 kid, maybe they want to go to houses, they can have 1 extra bedroom, right? The son that was living with the parents, well, maybe he's going to go off or she's, the daughter's going to go off and have her own place, you know what I mean? To have a little more space. So I think it trickles through. And so that's kind of my thought. I mean, we've seen surprisingly good leasing lately. So
it's a good theory, man. I like your take on it too. I like how no wonder Microsoft wanted you. How hard did they fight to keep you? Or it was like, look, guys, I'm done. I want to leave. I'll get, yeah.
Oh, my manager knew, like, it wasn't a surprise, right? I think he said, okay, I'm not surprised. They knew I'd want to go something. So,
did they know that you were investing?
He's occasionally said, hey, do you know anyone that maybe want to come work at Microsoft? It alluded to me, but, yeah, so.
Did they know that you were investing while you were working there, right?
No, I got into real estate after Microsoft.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even buy it. My first real estate purchase in my life was a 4-plex that's like a mile down the office. I wish I had bought some sort of real estate in Seattle whenever I lived there. But
do you still have it? Do you still have this 4-plex?
What's that? Yeah. No, I sold it this past October.
Nice.
I've slowly been selling off any property, any of my rentals that give me any headache. I just sell it. It's kind of my
I did that too this last year. So we only have 1 property that's not in multifamily out of our 328 units. We've only got 1 that's a single family home. The only reason I still have it is because I bought it as a tax deed, and it's got title issues that should be cleared up here in a couple of months. Once they do, it's going on the market.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Like one of them, like I've had like a tenant, she's been there for 3-4 years, never missed a payment. I'll hold on to that property as long as she wants to hold on to it. She leaves, then I'll kind of decide like, it's property sellable as is. If I have to do repairs on it, I might just repair it and sell it. So
gotcha.
Time is better spent on kind of, scaling out.
Yeah. Well, Feras, we have spent, that seemed like the fastest 30 minutes of my entire life. That was pretty freaking incredible, man. I know you've had a long day, and I want to be respectful of your time. I have enjoyed hearing you talk about this and your perspective of everything, and enjoying the beach view that you have. And I'm just messing with you. I know you don't go into Galveston this weekend.
It's a lovely beach. Look at that. It's great, right?
It is. That's nice. I don't think that's Galveston, though.
No, it's not Galveston. I'd be very happy if Galveston was that nice.
Yeah. Well, if that were the case, then you wouldn't know about Destin, right?
No, that's true. Yeah, Destin's one of the first beach vacations I remember as a kid. So
nice. Well, look, man, you're over this way. Let me buy you a beer at least.
No, we'll absolutely catch up next time I'm out there for sure.
That sounds good. So before we wrap up, let people know where they can find out more about you and Disrupt Equity.
Yeah, I mean, you can reach out to me. Go to www.disruptequity.com or send me an email, Feras, Feras, @disruptequity.com, or add me on LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm all over, so feel free to reach out.
I will make links to all that in the show notes. By the way, that might be your tech your propeller head was spinning when you said dub dub dub, because that was probably the fastest I've ever heard anybody say that before. That was good, man.
Funny, whenever I was at Microsoft, I worked on the web platform, so I know.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say there's a reason, right? There's you've got a lot of practice on it, so it's good stuff. Feras, I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Likewise, Jay. Thank you for having me. Definitely appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great day, buddy.
You too, man.
See you.
Hey, 4 things before you get out of here today. Number 1, thank you for watching. Sincerely appreciate that. It helps with our ratings with YouTube and all that. And along those lines, speaking of helping with ratings, if you could just hit that like button for me, the little thumbs up, and also subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. If you are a subscriber, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We are trying to grow the presence here on YouTube, and this is you liking, subscribing, and commenting helps with that whole algorithm piece. So let us know. It also helps me know what kind of content you're interested in. And in the comment section, if you just list that one golden nugget that you took away from today's episode, that would really help me out and engage, right? I'll get an alert when you say something about the episode today, when you make it in the comment, and I will respond to you right away. And it'll be me. It won't be anybody else, I promise. And also, I can't let you get out of here today. This is point number 3, I think. I can't let you get out here today, but highlighting this affiliate for us, Deal Check, incredible piece of software. Whether you're doing burrs, you're doing fix and flips, you're doing buy and holds, and buy and holds is single family and multifamily. I used it last week to underwrite an 8-unit deal, and I'm going to be using it for any of our properties up to a certain number. Probably after the 50 range, I get my real heavy duty calculator out that I'll use that, but I'm also going to then take that and put it in the Deal Check, because the graphs that and just the amount of data they put into the reports that you can provide banks. Hell, I even sent one to a seller. I was like, here's the number. I know you're probably not going to be happy about it, but here's why I sent it to you, because I'm trying to hit these numbers, and we're currently negotiating on that deal. So we'll see what happens. But we have an affiliate code in the description below. Make sure you use that. If you don't, just go to dealcheck.io from any browser, and you can be able to sign up there. Signing up is free, right? So you can use it. You only start paying for it once you need to start unlocking pieces of software. For what I do with it, I'm a buy and hold guy, so from what I need, it's $5 a month when I use the promo code W2CAP. So make sure, whether you use our affiliate link or not, that you use that promo code, because it's going to give you 25% off either the monthly subscription you sign up for, or the annual. They've got 2 different options. The annual gives you a little bit better discount anyway. The 4th thing is Operation Underground Railroad. If you've listened to anything that I've been doing for the last year, you know that I highly support this organization. Again, the promo code W2CAP, you can text that to 41404, and you're going to get an immediate response link back to our fundraiser page, so you can see what we're doing for them. But also from there, you can hop over and see what all they're about. Highly recommend you follow these guys on social media and everything like that, because they're just ridding the world of not only human trafficking, but more specifically child sex trafficking, which is the most disgusting thing that I can ever think of, that this goes on. My heart goes out to those kids, and that's why I support them, right? Having 3 of my own, I just can't imagine them being in that environment. I'll give you a bonus. Okay, that was the 4 things, right? So like, follow, subscribe is number 1. 2, Deal Check was number 2, I think. I'm losing count here. OUR was number 3. The 5th, whatever the next number is, the 4th or 5th thing, is my hat has been crooked this entire time, and I'm not going to do anything about it. It's fine. It's okay. All right. On a serious note, let's get to work.